LegCo passes the District Council Overhaul Bill. One more person arrested for allegedly running an online shopping app in support of a self-exiled fugitive. And U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen in China for a 4-day visit. Hello and welcome to TVB News. In a unanimous vote, the Legislative Council passed a bill that will reshape the district councils. The move is set to slash the proportion of directly elected seats from 90% to 20%. The bill will be gazetted on Monday. With an overwhelming 88 votes in favor and 0 nays.
獲得通過.
I declare the motion passed.
The legislature passed the third reading of the District Council Amendment Bill after 2 days of deliberation. Around 80 lawmakers took turns to articulate their support for the local level council's overhaul.
Yes, there is a reduction in democratic elements, but you would not want to live in a place where there is a high degree of democratic elements, where your livelihood issues are not resolved. It will not be a platform that advocates Hong Kong independence, and the proposal will be conducive to attracting people of different expertise and background to join the DC.
When we have too many directly elected seats, you end up with an over-politicized district council. There was populism, and that leads to chaos.
Chaos that the government wants to end through changing the council's composition. Secretary for Home and Youth Affairs Alice Mack said there were opportunists who hijacked the grassroots level council for political and personal gains, but couldn't care less about livelihood issues. Under the overhaul, the number of district council seats will be reduced from 479 to 470. 450 constituencies will be merged into 44, with 2 directly elected seats per constituency. A total of 88 seats will be up for grabs. The proportion is slashed from 90% to 20%. The reintroduced government-appointed councillors will take up 179 seats. Another 176 seats will be filled by representatives elected by the District Fire Safety and Fight Crime Committees, as well as the area committees. The Hong Kong Macau Affairs Office praised the legislature for efficiently vetting the bill. Chief Executive John Lee said he feels encouraged by the bill's passing and assured that the district body will lie firmly in the hands of patriots. The sole non-establishment lawmaker Teck Chi-yuen said he is confident his centrist party Third Side can secure nominations to take part in the district council polls. The Democratic Party, meanwhile, has yet to decide whether to send members to the elections, but some of its members expressed interest. Authorities are formulating performance monitoring mechanisms for the councillors. The guidelines are expected to be ironed out late this year. The Buildings Department says there is room for improvement in its inspection work after 2 incidences of objects falling from a Mong Kok building's external wall to the street below. Sharon Tang reports.
Last Sunday, an illegal canopy and concrete fell from an upper floor unit of Po On building on Mong Kok Road, hitting a truck on the street below and injuring the driver. An on-site inspection by Buildings Department officers found no obvious danger to the overall building structure. 3 days later, some rendering fell again from the 57-year-old building. In both cases, the falling objects came from the external wall of the same unit on the 16th floor of the building. This prompted doubts over the quality of the inspection carried out by Buildings Department officers. Today, Director of Buildings Clarice Yu said the officers had already done their best in accordance with relevant guidelines. Speaking on a radio program, Yu noted some staff members were brave enough to go up a fire truck ladder with firemen to check on the flat in question. She said they had removed the loose rendering from the 16th floor as well as shut racks, but still there is the chance of some rendering coming off. To further safeguard public safety, a catch fan has now been erected on the lower floor of the building. While the director hopes similar incidents will not happen again, she admits more should be done in future to make sure the rendering of the canopy is strong enough. Parts of the Po On building had already been issued a statutory inspection notice back in 2014, but repair work is still ongoing 9 years later. Authorities say up until May, notices of this kind have been issued to around 7,000 buildings, but more than half of the buildings have failed to comply with the notices. Warning letters will be issued to the owners concerned, and inspections have been beefed up. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
Sources say police arrested one more person for allegedly running an online shopping app in support of a fugitive suspected of endangering national security. It's understood the man taken away by police is former demo system member Chu Yan-ho. The arrest was made at the airport when Chu was about to leave for Taiwan. So far, 5 people have been apprehended over the case, including the ex-chairman of Demosisto, Ivan Lam. They allegedly run the Me Punish Club, a social media platform and an app that lists shops of the so-called Yellow Economic Circle with discounts offered. The government may announce its plan to improve the quality of the city's taxi services at the Legislative Council next week. The proposal includes the formation of taxi fleets by taxi owners, which will be able to charge customized fees for pre-arranged trips. The document also suggested the introduction of 6-seater taxis, as well as a penalty points system targeting bad driver behavior such as overcharging passengers and refusing rides. Maximum penalties could lead to a suspension of taxi licenses for 6 months and even imprisonment. The Bar Association and Law Society of Hong Kong have each received a complaint about one of their members currently overseas for suspected violation of the national security law. Both groups did not disclose the identity of the members involved. Victor Dawes, chairman of the Bar Association, said they would deal with the matter swiftly. If need be, the case will be referred to the barristers' disciplinary tribunal. The Law Society said disciplinary investigations are underway. Its president, Chan Chek-ming, said if the complaint is tenable, the maximum penalty can be the stripping of the lawyer's license. Australia-based lawyer Kevin Yam and former lawmaker and barrister Dennis Kwok are among the 8 fugitive activists on the Police National Security Department's wanted list. Chief Secretary for Administration Eric Chan said the government doesn't encourage anyone to offer support to the 8 absconders in any form, including financially. Overseas, the Philippines has accused China's Coast Guard of harassment, obstruction, and dangerous maneuvers against its vessels after another incident near a submerged reef in the South China Sea. According to the Philippine Coast Guard, its boats were assisting a naval operation on June 30th when they were constantly followed, harassed, and obstructed by the significantly larger Chinese Coast Guard vessels. The vessels involved had to reduce speed to prevent a collision. Both sides claim sovereignty over the reef known as Renai in China and the Second Thomas Shoal in the Philippines. Today, a spokesman for the Foreign Ministry in Beijing said the Philippine Coast Guard had intruded into Chinese waters without permission. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is in China for crunch talks. She'll meet with Premier Li Qiang and former Vice Premier Liu He tomorrow. It's the next step in trying to stabilize the relationship between the world's 2 largest economies. There are many topics where there are disagreements between Beijing and Washington, as David Garrett explains.
The US Treasury Secretary descends the steps ready to get down to business in Beijing. An important few days lie ahead for Janet Yellen as she's greeted in China. She'll be building bridges and shaking many more hands with top officials in the next few days. Ahead of her first visit to China, Yellen said economic decoupling from China would be disastrous. She knows it is a diplomatic mission. Before leaving the US, she said the nations need to find a way to live together in spite of differences over geopolitics and economic development. A Treasury official said Yellen will press Beijing on the need to cooperate on climate change, potential pandemics and debt. It's part of a push by US President Joe Biden to strengthen ties and smooth over creases in the often strained relationship. The latest culture clash is over metals, gallium and germanium. China said this week it's implementing state export controls from August. The US firmly opposes this. China reiterated its stance in Wednesday's Ministry of Foreign Affairs briefing. Spokesperson Wang Wenbin said it's a common international practice to impose controls on gallium and germanium-related items. The government implements this to ensure they're used for legitimate purposes without targeting any specific countries. Gallium is a semiconductor used in computer chips. Germanium is a component in fibre optic cables and infrared systems. China's technological advances create strong competition for American projects. The Yellen trip comes hot on the heels of US Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit to Beijing only last month. This was seen as a step forward in the relationship of the world's two largest economies, although little tangible progress was made. A day or so later, President Biden called Xi Jinping a dictator in badly timed comments. The two nations fell out over a Chinese balloon in US airspace at the start of the year and have long held ideological differences over Taiwan. Yellen plans to tell China's new economic team Washington will continue to defend human rights and its own interests. David Garrett, TVB News.
Amsterdam is continuing the cleanup after a rare summer storm battered the city and surrounding areas in the Netherlands. Winds of close to 150 kilometers an hour tipped trees onto vehicles and caused widespread damage and disruption. Airplane and train services were suspended. 2 people died when trees fell on them, one in Haarlem and the other near the border with Germany. Many people were injured from debris in Amsterdam. Houseboats on the famous canal were damaged. The Netherlands has seen only 2 such summer storms in the last century. Still ahead, Russia launches a new missile attack on the Ukrainian city of Lviv. 23 Hong Kong students achieve perfect scores in their IB exam. And demonstration of a new form of renewable energy at City U. Welcome back. Ukraine said 4 civilians died after Russia fired cruise missiles at a western city far from the war's front lines. The attack on Lviv, or Lviv, is the biggest on the city since Russia's invasion in February last year. Meanwhile, experts from the United Nations Nuclear Agency want more access to the Zaporizhzhia power plant to confirm findings that the facility is not rigged with bombs. Nasi Karim with more.
These are satellite images of the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The photos and ground inspections by experts from the United Nations International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, suggest neither Ukraine nor Russia have rigged the plant and its immediate surroundings with mines and explosives. Still, the IAEA agents want more access, just to make sure. Both Ukraine and Russia are accusing each other of planning some sort of attack on the plant, where past shelling has repeatedly taken down power lines needed to cool the 6 reactors. British intelligence says Russia has built sandbag fighting positions on the roofs of several reactor buildings. The IAEA says they have seen no visible evidence of explosives, but they want additional access, particularly to Units 3 and 4, to confirm their findings. On the war front, death and destruction in the western Ukrainian city of Lviv, where officials say Russian missile attacks damaged up to 60 apartments and 50 cars. It was the biggest strike on Lviv since Russia's invasion, with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky saying Kiev's response will be swift and tangible. Ukraine says at least 10 Russian missiles were shot down. Russia, meanwhile, said a Ukrainian attack on apartment buildings, a hospital complex and school in the Kremlin-controlled city of Makiivka in Donetsk killed 1 man and injured dozens, including children. Ukrainian officials said the strike on Makiivka destroyed a Russian army warehouse. Moscow also said its forces have hit 3 Ukrainian battalions around Bakhmut, which Russia largely controls. Meanwhile, in Kiev, a man barricaded himself inside a court building. He then detonated an explosive device and died. 2 members of a special rapid force unit were hurt while trying to apprehend the man. The man, identified as Igor Humanyuk, was in court as a suspect in connection with the deaths of 4 Ukrainian National Guardsmen in 2015. No word yet on whether the incident was linked to Russia. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
In the United States, a small bag of cocaine was found on the lobby floor of the White House West Wing, an area where visitors place electronics and other belongings before going on tours. The Secret Service is investigating the matter. NBC has more.
Tonight, a Secret Service investigation is focused just steps beyond those iconic West Wing doors to find out who had access to this secure area and left behind an illegal drug in a small plastic baggie. Test results back today confirm it was cocaine, officials say. Found Sunday night in a common area where staff and visitors store personal belongings like cell phones before stepping closer to the heart of the president's office space.
The president thinks it's very important to get to the bottom of this.
Sources familiar with the investigation say the baggie is still at the lab to determine if fingerprints or DNA can be detected and to do a full chemical analysis of the contents. Investigators are also reviewing video surveillance and visitor logs.
When people visit the West Wing, there is the area of the West Wing where it is highly traveled, and that is what happens. People come through this particular area, it's highly traveled.
The West Wing lobby is often included in private tours led by White House employees. Officials say those tours were done Friday, Saturday, and Sunday before the baggie was found. The Biden family was at Camp David.
Let the Secret Service do their job. It's under their purview.
Officials point out that all White House visitors are screened to detect weapons or dangerous chemicals that could be used to harm others.
We had a luxury watch heist in Tsim Sha Tsui this afternoon. At around 2 p.m., at least 3 robbers wielding knives and hammers burst into a shop on Modi Road. Reportedly, 2 of them are not of Chinese descent. They then fled in a silver getaway car. 9 luxury watches, altogether worth more than $1 million, were snatched. Some mainland tourists said they were shocked to learn about the daylight robbery in Hong Kong. Around an hour after the robbery, police found the suspected getaway car in Hung Hom. A fake license plate was allegedly used on the vehicle. Famous singer Coco Lee died last night after committing suicide. She was 48. Her sister, who broke the news on social media, wrote Lee had battled with depression for a long time in recent years. The Hong Kong-born singer-songwriter entered the entertainment industry in 1994. Her single, Do You Want My Love, made it to the U.S. Billboard charts before the turn of the century. Lee also voiced for Disney's Mulan in Mandarin. International baccalaureate candidates worldwide received their results last night. Here in Hong Kong, 23 students achieved perfect scores. Veronica Lin spoke with some of the top performers.
International Baccalaureate, commonly known as IB, is one of the pathways to tertiary education. Just under 180,000 students across the world received their IB diploma program and career-related program results last night. More than 2,200 students in Hong Kong sat the exams this year. Among them, 23 earned a perfect score of 45. 3 of the top students achieving full marks came from Diocesan Boys School. We spoke with the top scorers to find out if they have any tips for other students sitting for IB. Max Cook, captain of the DBS tennis team, said time management is key to studying efficiently.
And another tip is to sleep more. Honestly, just get well rested, drink more water. If you rest more, your studying is more efficient, you can get more knowledge into your brain.
The 12th grader, who aspires to be an athlete, suffered a serious injury as a child. The doctors and nurses who cared for him inspired him to pursue a career in medicine.
For me, the reason why I'm staying in Hong Kong to study medicine is because both of these universities are great. Also, if I stay in Hong Kong, it's better to train my Cantonese so then I can interact with more people.
According to a press release from IB, the distribution of awarded grades is close to pre-pandemic levels. That is to say, the scores weren't inflated as they were over the past few years. Hence, there was a drop for top scores this year, both in Hong Kong and globally. However, DBS's IB coordinator Charles Wu said it's important to look beyond the scores.
We tend to not look too much to statistics in terms of how many 45s we get in terms of measuring the success of our students. So as an educator, when we look at success of students, we tend to look at other things. For example, the university placements, whether we can get our students to reach their maximum potential.
The pandemic perhaps is a blessing in disguise for these students. Some top scorers said it has given them more time to study as well as pursue their interests. Veronica Lane, TVB News.
The City University of Hong Kong is holding a special STEM carnival showcasing its students' research projects. The 3-day-long event aims to generate interest in STEM subjects among the city's youth. Among the key exhibits is Asia's first wind or pressure-powered nano generator. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Today, some of Hong Kong's brightest young engineers gathered at the halls of City U at the start of the university's STEM Carnival and Student Project exhibition. The 3-day event showcases some of their pioneering work. It also offers workshops for secondary school students. One of the foremost inventions presented today was a nano generator powered by both wind or pressure, a small electricity-producing device that's the first of its kind in Asia.
I think that the exhibition is so meaningful. In my conception, I just know that the renewable energy is solar energy, wind energy, and water energy. I don't know this new energy.
Professor Stephen Wang, who leads the City U team, told TVB News how his nano generator idea was inspired by everyday life.
When I visit, some local shopping mall, or also when I came back to work every day, I found that there's a lot of people just working on the floor. And I found that maybe this is some sort of energy resource we can recover. We decided this kind of contact separation timed nano generator. If we just have a foot touching on the floor, it will allow us to generate electricity.
It took over a year's time to create the power generator, with some team members pointing out some major challenges they had to solve during its construction.
I think the biggest challenge is when we design this wind turbine, it has some difference from the traditional windmills, because traditional windmills only need to harvest wind flow from one side. However, in our circumstance, because cars move in the opposite directions in the expressway, So our device needs to harvest wind flow from different directions.
The engineering team said it is already working with the government to implement the use of their wind turbine project on the city's highways. The team is currently waiting for the MTR's approval to place the devices in the rail network.
Once pressure is added to this towel, it will generate at least 1,000 volts of electricity, simulating the compression force of pedestrians and vehicles traveling on the highway. The City U team hopes that its invention will eventually be able to reach the masses through various forms of public transport. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.